The silver tray shook in her hands. She caught it before it fell. Anna Grace was 28, a black woman working her first morning as a maid inside a mansion that felt like a mausoleum. She counted short cash for her mother's heart evaluation and slipped an unpaid pharmacy bill into her apron. The head housekeeper laid down the rules. Discretion, punctuality, eyes down. Then he came down the stairs. Kang Min-jae, they called him the Quiet One, a Korean Mafia boss in a midnight black three-piece suit, a koi tattoo curving up the left side of his neck, a steel watch on a wrist that hadn't shaken a hand in months. Hollow-eyed, he ignored the whole room. Anna nearly dropped the tray. She caught it, steadied her breath, and quipped that she once served 50 guests through a full blackout. He stopped. For the first time in months, this man smiled. And his mother saw it. 2 in the morning became their hour. Kitchen light, old job stories, real laughter from a man everyone thought was already dead inside. But what neither of them saw coming was already moving in the shadows of that house. Before starting the story, comment down below where you are watching from and what time it is there. If stories of karma, love, and hidden truths move you, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a member and help our channel. Anna Grace counted the bills twice before the bus reached her stop, because the number never changed no matter how she stacked them. 340. The cardiologist's office wanted $500 up front for the evaluation, cash, before they would put her mother's name on the schedule. She folded the money into the zippered pocket of her bag, the one that held the things she could not afford to lose, and pressed the seam flat with her thumb. The pharmacy bill was in the other pocket. Unpaid, she had not opened the envelope in 4 days. She got off 2 blocks early. Walking was free, and the walk gave her the minutes she needed to change her face before the gate. By the time the Kang estate rose up behind its stone wall, she had put the tired part of herself somewhere out of sight. Deep, even brown skin, luminous in the morning light, wide halo of dark wine curls catching the wind, the small gold hoop in her nostril. She looked ready. Ready was the job. The side entrance took a code and a nod from the man in the booth. He never smiled. Neither did she anymore. Not at him. Inside, the house was cold in a way that had nothing to do with temperature. Mrs. Oh Jung-hee was waiting in the service corridor with her reading glasses pushed down her nose and her small notebook open against her palm. The head housekeeper did not say good morning. She looked at the clock on the wall, then at Anna, and let the silence do the counting. 7:58, Anna said. The staff enters at 7:45. Mrs. O turned a page. You are not staff yet, you are a trial. Anna held her chin level. Understood. Then let us understand the rest. The older woman closed the notebook on one finger, keeping her place. This house has 3 rules. You will not repeat what you see, you will not repeat what you hear, and you will not be seen unless someone requires you to be. Discretion, punctuality. Anna nodded once. I can do both. The third is harder for young women who think they are clever. Mrs. O's gaze moved to the tote bag on Anna's shoulder, where a corner of a textbook stuck out past the zipper. Anatomy. The cover was worn soft. You brought a book. For the bus. Not into this house. The key ring at Mrs. O's waist gave a small metal sound as she straightened. Whatever you are studying to become, you become it on your own time. On the floor, you carry trays. You do not carry ambition. Ambition is loud. This family requires quiet. Anna slid the strap off her shoulder and set the bag in the staff cubby without a word. The book went face down under her coat. She would not argue over a thing she could win by simply obeying it. Her mother had taught her that. You keep the fight for the day the fight is worth it, Ruth always said, and this was not the day. Good. Mrs. O finally uncapped the notebook fully and wrote something Anna could not see. The family takes coffee in the east sitting room at 8:30. The mother first. You will bring the service and you will leave it. You will not linger. You will not speak unless spoken to. If Madame Kang speaks to you, you answer, and then you disappear. And the others? The pen stopped. Mrs. O looked up, and for a breath something crossed her face that Anna could not name, something careful. The sun does not come down, she said. Do not wait for him. Do not look for him. If you pass him in a hall, you look at the floor and you keep walking. Is he unwell? That is exactly the kind of question this house does not permit. Mrs. O capped the pen. Kitchen, now. The tray is heavy. Do not drop it. The tray was heavy. Anna understood it the moment she lifted it from the marble island, both hands under the polished silver, the weight settling into her forearms and up into her shoulders. Full pot, 2 cups she was told to bring, even though only one person would drink. Cream in a chilled dish, sugar cubes in a small bowl with tongs shaped like tiny bamboo. Everything on that tray cost more than the evaluation her mother needed, and she was carrying it to a woman who would take 3 sips and leave. She had carried heavier for less. She let that thought steady her. The cook, a round woman named Bo Ram, who did not seem to fit the house's silence, wiped her hands on her apron, and watched Anna find her balance. You hold it like you have done it before. 10 years of it. Anna adjusted her grip. Different houses, same weight. Then you will be fine here. Bo Ram lowered her voice, glancing at the door. As long as you learn the map. The map? Where the sad rooms are. The cook said it plainly, the way you'd say where the stairs were. This house has more of them than most. You will feel it before you see it. Anna carried the tray out through the swinging door and into the wide back hall, and she understood what the cook meant before she reached the second turn. The house was beautiful, and it was full of grief, and the grief had been left everywhere like furniture no one wanted to move. There was a photograph on the console table under the stairs, a man in his 60s with the son's exact jaw, and someone had turned it just slightly toward the wall, not enough to hide it, only enough that you would not meet his eyes by accident. There was a study door that stayed shut. There was a coat still hanging on the rack by the garden entrance, a man's coat, dust settling into the shoulders. Nobody had given the order to remove it, so nobody had. Anna walked past all of it with the tray level and her steps quiet on the runner, and she kept her eyes forward, the way she had been told, but she saw. She could not help seeing. Seeing was the other half of the job the family did not know they were paying for. She had grown up in a house where loss got named out loud, where her mother cried at the kitchen table and then wiped her face and made dinner. This grief was different. This grief was polished. It had staff. She passed a window seat where a chessboard sat mid-game, the pieces frozen in a match no one would finish. A layer of dust had gone soft over the black king. Someone had been losing. Someone had walked away from the losing and never come back to it, and the house had simply agreed to keep the board exactly where the giving up had happened. Anna counted 4 rooms like that before the sitting room, rooms holding their breath, rooms waiting for a person to walk back in and pick up where a life had stopped. She thought of her own kitchen table, the chipped one, the way her mother would have filled a house like this with noise inside a week. Ruth did not believe in quiet grief. Ruth believed you fed people through it. Anna carried that thought like a warm coal in a cold place, and it got her the rest of the way down the hall. The east sitting room was full of pale morning light, and Kang Hae-suk sat in it, the way a candle sits in a still room, small and upright and unbothered by the size of everything around her. Silver-streaked black hair in a low chignon, a jade bracelet on her right wrist that she touched once, absently, when Anna came in. Her eyes moved to the tray, then to Anna's face, and stayed there a beat longer than Anna expected. "You are the new one," Hae-suk said. "Anna Grace, ma'am." She set the tray on the low table without a rattle, the cups landing soft, the pot steady. "Good morning, Grace." The older woman repeated it as if she were setting it somewhere for later. "That is your family name?" "My mother's choice. It was the only thing she could give me for free," she used to say. She had not meant to say it. It came out before Mrs. O's third rule could catch it, and for a second Anna braced for the correction. But Haisuk did not look offended. Something moved at the corner of her mouth, gone before it finished. "Your mother sounds like a practical woman." "She is." Anna straightened, hands folding at her waist. "Will there be anything else?" "No." Haisuk lifted the pot herself before Anna could pour. A small refusal of service that felt, oddly, like a courtesy. "You may go." Anna went. At the door she remembered the second cup, the useless one, and glanced back once. The old woman had set it on the far side of the table, near the empty chair, and she was looking at it, not drinking, setting a place. For no one, or for someone who did not come down. Anna looked at the floor and kept walking. The morning filled itself the way work always did. There were rooms to open and rooms to leave shut. There was silver to return, and a hall to cross, and a staircase she was told to clean, but not to climb past the landing. There was Mrs. O appearing at corners like she had learned the house's shortcuts through the walls, checking, marking, never once satisfied, and never once cruel about it, which was somehow worse. Cruelty you could brace against. This was just a door that would not fully open no matter how correctly you knocked. At 10:30, Anna found a moment alone in the service pantry, and she used it the way she used every moment alone. She took out her phone and looked at the message from the cardiologist's office again. 500, cash, to schedule. Then she opened the banking app she already knew the number of, because she had checked it on the bus, because the number would not have changed, and it had not. 340 in her bag, a little over 90 in the account, the pharmacy bill she had not opened. She did the arithmetic she had done 100 times, the arithmetic that never came out, and she felt the thing in her chest that she did not let onto her face. Her mother's heart was doing something the local clinic did not have the machine to name. The specialist had the machine. The specialist wanted 500 to turn it on. There had been a night, 2 weeks back, when the clinic doctor sat Anna down and used the word urgent. And then, seeing her face, softened it into soon. Soon was worse than urgent. Urgent had a plan. Soon just followed you around. Her mother had squeezed her hand in the hallway afterward and said, "Don't you dare carry me on top of everything." And Anna had smiled and lied and carried her anyway, because that was the arrangement between them and always had been. She put the phone away. She pressed her palm flat against the cool edge of the pantry shelf and breathed until the arithmetic went quiet. Then she washed her face in the small staff sink, dried it, checked the mirror. The gloss on her lips, the curls sitting right, the face that said she was fine. She practiced fine until it held. Her phone buzzed once more before she left the pantry. "Delilah." "How's the fancy house, Your Highness?" Anna almost smiled at that, her best friend's voice coming right off the screen. She typed back with one thumb. "Cold, rich, people are cold." 3 dots then. "You eat today?" Anna looked at the message for a second longer than the question deserved. She typed, "Yes," and put the phone away, and the small lie sat in her stomach where breakfast should have been. At noon, Mrs. O found her in the linen room and handed her a folded slip of paper. "Your schedule for the week, if the trial continues." Anna unfolded it. 6 days, long hours, and at the bottom, in a small, even hand, the wage. She read the number and kept her face still, but the number did the math for her, and the math still did not reach 500 by the day the cardiologist wanted it. "Is there overtime?" she asked. "There is discretion." Mrs. O took the paper back, refolded it along the same crease, and returned it as if the act itself were an instruction. Do the work well, and the work grows. Ask for more before you have earned it, and it does not. I wasn't asking for more, I was asking if it exists. The older woman studied her over the reading glasses. For a moment, the sharpness in her face shifted, not softened, only aimed somewhere else, somewhere back in her own memory. It exists, Mrs. O said. For those who understand that in a house like this, patience is the only currency that does not get you dismissed. You have a hungry look, Miss Grace. I have seen it before. Learn to hide it better than you hide that book. Anna folded the schedule into her apron pocket. I'll work on it. See that you do. Mrs. O turned to go, then paused at the door with her hand on the frame. The afternoon tray goes up at 3, not to the son's floor, to the mother, in the garden room. You will not go above the second landing. Do you understand what I am telling you? That there's a part of this house I don't clean. That there is a part of this house that does not want to be seen. The key ring gave its small sound. Leave it that way, and you and I will get along. She left. Anna stood alone in the linen room, with the smell of pressed cotton, and the schedule in her pocket, and the cardiologist's number in her head, and she let herself, for exactly one breath, feel all of it. The weight of the tray, the weight of the wage, the coat on the rack that no one would move, the second cup set for no one. Then she squared the stack of folded towels, evened the edges, and picked up the empty basket. The afternoon light was gold when she carried the 3 o'clock service down the long gallery toward the garden room, and she had almost learned the map by then. She knew which floorboard by the study announced itself and which did not. She knew to keep her eyes off the turned photograph. She knew the coat by the garden door, and she had decided, privately, that if the trial became a job, she would find a way to move it, dust it, do the small mercy no one had ordered. She was thinking about that, about small mercies and large bills, and her mother's heart doing its unnamed thing across the city, when she reached the base of the main staircase. And she heard it, above her, on the stairs. A footstep, slow, then another. Coming down from the floor she was told not to climb, the floor that did not want to be seen, the floor where the sun did not come down. Except now someone was. Anna's hands tightened under the tray. Every instruction Mrs. O had given her lined up in a single row. Look at the floor. Keep walking. Do not wait. Do not look for him. She fixed her eyes on the runner and took the first step past the staircase, tray level, breath even, exactly as trained. The footsteps reached the landing above and stopped. She did not look up. She held the tray. She held the rule. And in the enormous quiet of that cold, grieving house, she felt the weight of someone standing at the top of the stairs, looking down at her, for the first time in a very long time, deciding whether to keep coming. The footsteps came down, one at a time, unhurried, as if the man attached to them had nowhere in the world he wanted to be. Anna kept her chin low. The tray stayed level in her hands, the pot warm against her wrists, the 2 cups sitting in their saucers without a rattle. She counted the steps the way she counted everything lately. 7, 8, 9. Then a hand closed on the banister above her, and the descent stopped again. She should have kept walking. Mrs. O's rule was a wall in her mind. Look at the floor. Do not wait. Do not look for him. But the man was standing in the exact center of the staircase, and the staircase was the only way from the gallery to the garden room, and Haisuk's 3 o'clock service was already 2 minutes late. Anna lifted her eyes the smallest fraction, just enough to find the edge of the runner, the polished tread, a pair of black shoes that had been shined by someone who cared, and worn by someone who did not. He came the rest of the way down. She saw the suit first, because that was what a servant was trained to see. The line of it, whether it needed pressing, whether a guest was arriving or leaving. Charcoal, close to black, a white shirt with the collar open, no tie, and then, against her training, against the rule, she looked up the whole way. His face was the face from the photograph turned toward the wall, the same jaw, but where the man in the frame had been broad and easy, this one had been sanded down to something hollow, dark eyes set deep, fixed on the middle distance, on nothing. He passed the last step and moved across the gallery toward her without seeing her, the way a man walks through his own house in the dark. He was going to walk straight into the tray. Anna shifted her weight and turned her shoulder. A small automatic thing, 10 years old in her body. The pot slid. She felt it go, the top-heavy lurch of full silver deciding to leave her hands, and her heart dropped through the floor of her chest. Boiling coffee, a guest, her trial, her mother's $500, all of it tipping at once on a polished parquet floor. Her knee came up. Her forearm swung under the tray's edge. The pot rocked hard against its own lid, spat one drop that seared the back of her hand, and settled. The cups clattered into their saucers and went still. She caught it all against her hip and hung there, bent, breath stopped, the tray screaming metal at the ceiling. Silence. The man had stopped. For the first time, his eyes were on her, actually on her, pulled out of the middle distance by the noise. Anna straightened slowly, the way you straighten holding something you have already almost lost once. She got the tray level. The burn on her hand throbbed. She did not look at it. "I apologize," she said, low, even. "That was mine." He studied her, not the tray, her. Something behind his eyes moved, some old machinery grinding after a long stop. She should have curtsied and gone. Instead, her mouth, which had been getting her through hard rooms her whole life, opened on its own. "You're all right," she said. "I served 50 guests through a blackout once. Whole ballroom went dark in the middle of the soup." She tipped the tray an inch, showing him the pot standing perfectly upright on it. Carried 3 courses by feel, didn't lose a plate. This, she glanced down at the silver, this was nothing. For a long moment he said nothing at all. The koi tattoo climbing the left side of his neck moved as he swallowed. And then the corner of his mouth pulled. It was small. It was almost nothing. A crack in a wall that had been sealed so long the mortar had forgotten it was ever separate stones. But it reached his eyes. For half a second the vacancy there filled with something warm and surprised, and the hollow face became, briefly, the face from the photograph before the photograph was turned around. Kang Min-jae smiled. He did not seem to know he was doing it. His hand came halfway up, as if to touch his own mouth and confirm the strange thing happening to it. He let it fall. "A blackout," he said. His voice was rough, unused, a door on a dry hinge. 50 guests. 52. Anna held his gaze 1 beat longer than a maid should, then dropped her eyes back to the floor where they belonged. The last 2 came without an invitation. The sound he made was not quite a laugh. It was the ghost of one, an exhale with shape to it, and it seemed to cost him. But it was there. Neither of them heard the door. Hae-suk stood at the threshold of the garden room, one hand flat against the frame, the jade bracelet on her wrist catching the light. She had come to see where her tray was. She did not announce herself. She did not move. Her eyes went from her son's face to the young woman with the tray, and back to her son's face, and something in her own expression broke open and quickly closed, the way a person hides a thing too precious to be seen wanting. Her son was smiling. In the middle of the day, on the stairs he did not use, at a servant he was not supposed to notice, over a joke about a blackout. Hae-suk stepped back into the garden room before either of them turned. She sat down in her chair. She folded her hands over the jade, and she waited, her heart going faster than a woman her age should let it, for the coffee that was late. Min-jae moved past Anna without another word, but he moved differently now, slower, aware of the space, aware that there was a person standing in it. At the mouth of the corridor, he paused. "Your hand," he said, not turning around. Anna looked down. The red mark where the drop had landed was rising into a welt. "It's fine." "It isn't," he said it flatly. A man used to being told the truth was fine when it was not. Then he was gone, down the corridor toward the shut study door, and she heard his footsteps stop outside it, the way a person stops outside a room they cannot make themselves enter. Anna carried the tray into the garden room. Hyasuk was seated by the window with her hands folded. The light came in gray and soft over the potted ferns, over a low table set for one. Anna crossed to it, lowered the tray, and began the ritual Mrs. O had drilled into her. Pot down, cup forward, cream at 2 o'clock, sugar cubes stacked with the bamboo tongs. Leave it. Do not linger. Answer only if spoken to. She was setting the second cup by the empty chair, the one no one drank from, when Hyasuk spoke. "You caught it." Anna's hands went still over the sugar. "Ma'am?" The tray. Hyasuk was not looking at her. She was looking at the ferns, at the gray window, at nothing, in a practiced way that Anna would only much later understand she had learned from her son. "I heard it. The whole house heard it. And then I did not hear it fall." "No, ma'am. I caught it." "Yes." Hyasuk lifted her cup, breathed the steam, set it down again without drinking. "You did." Anna waited. The rule said leave. Something in the room said stay. "How long have you served, Grace?" There it was again. Her surname turned into a question, held up to the light and examined. Anna kept her voice level. 10 years, ma'am. Different houses. And in 10 years. Hyasuk turned her head at last, and her calm, watchful eyes settled on Anna's face, with the same weight Anna had felt at 8:30 that morning, the weight of being looked at by someone who already seemed to know something about her. "In 10 years, has anyone ever thanked you for catching the tray? Or only scolded you for nearly dropping it?" Anna did not answer for a moment. It was not a question a servant was supposed to be asked, and she did not have a servant's answer ready. "Only scolded, ma'am," she said finally. "The catching is the job. You only get noticed when you miss." Hyasuk nodded slowly, as if this confirmed something she had suspected for a long time about the world and the people who moved through it carrying trays. "Thank you," she said, "for catching the tray." Anna's throat did an unexpected thing. She lowered her eyes. "You're welcome, ma'am. You may go." Anna gathered the empty saucer, straightened the tongs, and turned for the door. She had almost reached it when Hyasuk spoke once more, quietly, to the window rather than to her. He came down the front stairs. Anna stopped, her hand on the frame. "My son does not come down the front stairs," Hyasuk said. "He has not, in a long time. He uses the back way, when he uses any way at all. Today he came down the front, into the middle of the house, in the middle of the afternoon." A pause. "I wonder what made him." It was not a question Anna was meant to answer. She understood that. She said nothing, and she went, the burn on her hand throbbing in time with her pulse, and behind her, Hyasuk lifted the cup a second time, and this time drank. In the kitchen, Bo-Ram took one look at Anna's face and the red mark on her hand and put down her knife. "What happened to you?" "Nothing. Dropped a little coffee." Anna set the tray on the counter and ran cold water over the welt. The sting eased, caught the rest. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Anna almost laughed. In a way she had. "I saw the sun." Bo-Ram's knife stayed down. In the household of invisible grief, this was news the way a fire alarm was news. "Where?" "On the front stairs." He came all the way down. Anna turned off the tap and dried her hand on her apron. "Walked right into me. Nearly wore the whole pot." "He spoke to you?" "He asked about my hand." Bo-Ram sat down slowly on the stool by the prep table, which Anna had not seen her do once all morning. 12 years I've cooked in this house, she said. I've watched that boy grow from a rope-armed teenager who stole dumplings off the tray into whatever it is he is now. And since the funeral, I have sent up 3 trays a day to the top floor and gotten 3 trays a day back, and the food is barely touched, and I have not heard his voice through that door in— She stopped to count and could not. A long time, and he asked a new maid about her hand. Anna said nothing. She was thinking about the smile, the half-second of warmth, the way his own hand had come up as if to check that his face was really doing that. "What did you say to him?" Bo-Ram asked. "I told him about the blackout, the 52 guests." Bo-Ram stared at her. Then, unexpectedly, she barked a laugh, the first loud sound Anna had heard in the whole cold house. "You told the boss a story. On your first day, with the tray tipping." She shook her head. "You've got a mouth on you, Grace. So I've been told. Mrs. O will skin you. Mrs. O won't hear it from me." Anna picked up the tray to carry it to the wash. "And you didn't either." Bo-Ram held up 2 flat hands, the household rule made into a gesture. "Don't repeat what you see. Don't repeat what you hear." "I heard nothing," she said. "But I'll tell you this for free, and then I'll never say it again." She leaned in. "That boy up there is the most powerful thing in this city. Men with more money than God flinch when his name comes up. And for 3 seasons, he's been a ghost who won't eat. If you put a crack in that door today, girl, you be careful which way it swings. A crack lets light in." She picked her knife back up. "It also lets the cold out." Anna finished the day with the warning sitting in her like a second heartbeat. She dusted the east sitting room and did not touch the shut study door. She carried linens up to the second landing and no farther, the way she'd been told, and she stood there a moment at the boundary line and looked up the last flight toward the top floor where a man was not eating, and then she carried the linens back down. The rule was a wall. She left it standing. At 6, she changed out of the uniform in the narrow staff room, folded the black dress and the white apron with care because they were not hers to ruin, and put on her own jeans and the cream sweater. In the pocket of her coat, the pharmacy bill sat where it had sat for 4 days, unopened, and her phone said her mother had called once and left no message, which was Ruth's way of saying, "I'm all right, don't spend the minutes calling back." She checked her bank balance on the bus home, out of a compulsion she could not break. $90 and change, $340 in the envelope pinned inside her bag. $500 the cardiologist wanted, cash, before he would so much as write the appointment down. The math had not moved since morning. Math never did. But something else had moved today, and she could not stop turning it over. A man who had not smiled in months had smiled at her. Not because she was beautiful. Men smiled at that all the time, and it meant nothing and cost her plenty. He had smiled because she had said something true and unafraid in a house where everyone tiptoed. She had treated the most powerful man in the city like a customer who'd had a scare, and it had reached him somewhere no one else could get to anymore. She told herself it meant nothing. A crack in a door. Bo-Ram's warning, a crack lets the cold out. She told herself she needed the wage and the overtime and the discretion Mrs. O had hinted at, needed them for the $500 and the pharmacy bill and the untouched appointment, and that she could not afford to be the thing a grieving rich man noticed. Noticed people got moved around. Noticed people got sent home. Her phone buzzed. Delilah. "So? Day 1 of the palace? Did they make you polish a swan?" Anna's thumb hovered. She thought about the tray in the air, the burn, the half-second smile. The mother in the doorway she hadn't known was watching until she'd replayed it on the bus and remembered a shadow at the edge of the garden room that had not been there and then had. "Long day," she wrote. "Tell you later." You eat? Anna looked out the window at the city going by, at the pharmacy she'd have to pass on the walk from the stop, the one whose bill was in her coat. Yeah, she typed. I ate. She had not. She did not know that 4 floors above the garden room, at that same hour, Kang Min-jae had done a thing he had not done since the funeral. He had come to the top of the stairs a second time, in the dark, and stood there with his hand on the banister where her voice had reached him, and listened to the empty house for a sound that was no longer in it. Below, in her chair by the window, Hae-suk had sent for Mrs. O. The head housekeeper came with her notebook and her key ring and her reading glasses on their chain, and she stood in front of her mistress the way she had stood for 30 years, waiting to be told which small perfect thing the house required. The new girl, Hae-suk said. The trial. Grace. Mrs. O's face gave away nothing. Yes, madam. I'll have my assessment ready by Friday. She was late this morning, and she has a manner. I've spoken to her about the manner. Don't speak to her about the manner. Hae-suk turned from the window. The gray light had gone out of it and the room had filled with the blue of early evening, and her son had not come down for supper, but he had come down once, today, on the front stairs, into the middle of his own life. Keep her, Hae-suk said. Whatever the trial was to decide, it's decided. She stays. Mrs. O's pen paused over the notebook. In 30 years, she had learned when a question was permitted and when it was not. And she had also learned, in one particular matter 3 months ago, to keep a certain arrangement to herself. She looked at Hae-suk now, and something passed between the two women that had a history to it, a thing agreed upon once and never again spoken of. As you wish, madam, Mrs. O said, and wrote the girl's name down, and underlined it once, and did not ask why. The kitchen light was the only one burning in the east wing when Anna heard the floorboard give above her head, 2 in the morning. She had come down for water and stayed for the quiet, sitting at the long steel prep table with a glass she hadn't touched, the pharmacy bill folded into a square in her sweater pocket because she couldn't sleep with it in her coat, and couldn't sleep with it out of reach either. The board settled, then a second one, closer to the back stairs. She knew the sound of a house learning to hold a person's weight. She sat very still and waited to see which way it would go. It came down. Min-jae stopped in the kitchen doorway in the gray trousers and the black knit sweater, no watch tonight, hair not swept back, but fallen forward, like a man who had given up on the mirror. He looked at the glass in front of her. He looked at the empty chair across from her. You're not supposed to be down here, he said. Neither are you, Anna said. The corner of his mouth moved. He came in. He didn't sit across from her. He sat 2 stools down, the way a man sits near a fire he doesn't fully trust, and he set both hands flat on the steel like he needed to feel something cold. There's coffee, Anna said. It's 3 hours old. I can make new. No. He turned the word over. The old is fine. She poured it anyway, into one of the everyday cups, not the silver service china, and slid it down the table to him. He caught it without looking, the way she had caught the tray, and something in his face registered that. The 52 guests, he said. The blackout. Was that true? Every word. Tell me the rest of it. So she told him. Not the polished version she gave employers, the real one, the ballroom on the river, the generator that died at the exact moment the host proposed a toast, the head server who froze so completely that Anna had simply taken the tray out of his hands. She told him how she'd counted the tables in the dark by the smell of the centerpieces, lilies at 4, roses at 7, how she'd carried 3 courses by feel and lost not a single plate, how the lights came back at dessert, and the whole room applauded a waiter they never once looked at when they could see her. They clapped, Min-jae said, for the lights, not for you. For the lights, Anna agreed. I got a Christmas bonus of $40 and a note that said good instincts. He laughed. It wasn't the ghost of it from the staircase. It came up out of his chest, short and rough, a sound the house clearly had not made room for in a long time, because the old refrigerator seemed to flinch. He put his hand over his mouth like he'd said something he shouldn't. Then he lowered it and let the laugh finish on its own. $40, he said. I framed the note, sold the frame. That did it again. He shook his head, and for a moment, the hollow thing that lived under his eyes stepped back to let a different man forward. Younger, the man from the photograph turned toward the wall. They stayed at the table until the sky over the garden went from black to the color of old iron. She didn't ask him a single question about himself. She had learned, in 10 years of other people's houses, that the fastest way to lose a wounded man's trust was to reach for the wound. So she talked about her worst jobs instead, the diplomat who counted the shrimp, the widow who made her practice curtsying, the twins who hid a live frog in the soup tureen. He listened the way starving men eat, carefully, like too much at once might hurt. At 5 he stood. Mrs. O comes at 5:30. I know the schedule better than she thinks. He paused at the doorway. You didn't ask me anything. You didn't come down here to be asked. He looked at her a beat too long, then went up the back stairs, and this time his weight moved easily on the boards, like a man who had remembered how his own house was built. He came the next night, and the night after. It became a thing without either of them naming it, which was the only way a thing like that could survive in a house built on the rule of naming nothing. 2 in the morning, the everyday cups, her stories first, always, because they were safer, and then, slowly, his, sideways, never direct. He told her about a chessboard once, mid-game, and stopped. She didn't push. She only said she'd noticed a board in the West Gallery going gray under dust, and that it seemed a shame to let a game die of neglect when somebody had clearly been winning. He was winning, Min-jae said. My father. He was always winning. That was all, but he'd said the word father in the kitchen, out loud, and Anna watched him hear himself say it and not fall through the floor. The 4th night he brought the board down himself. He came through the doorway with it balanced on both hands, the dust wiped off, the pieces set exactly where they had frozen mid-game a year and some months before, and he put it on the steel table between them, without a word, and sat and waited. Anna looked at the position. White was 3 moves from finishing black. She was not a chess player. She had bussed enough clubrooms to know a board in trouble when she saw one. I don't know the game, she said. You don't have to. Just move a piece. Any piece. It's been sitting like this too long. That's your father's game. That's his side losing. I know whose game it is. His jaw worked. Move a piece, Grace. So she reached out and slid a small carved horse, 2 squares forward. Wrong. Illegal, probably. And the game that had been dying under dust in the West Gallery became a game somebody was playing again. Min-jae stared at the horse in its wrong square. Then he moved a piece of his own, and the thing that had been held perfectly, terribly still for a year began, very quietly, to move. They didn't finish it. They never finished it. That wasn't the point, and both of them knew it wasn't the point, and neither of them said so. My father taught me that a man who can't lose a game can't win one either, Min-jae said, to the board, not to her. I stopped believing him. Then he died in the middle of proving it. Anna didn't reach for the wound. She only said, he left it a good position. For a losing side. Min-jae looked up at her. Something in his face came all the way open for the length of one breath, and then, gently, closed again. Not slammed, just closed, the way a door closes on a room you intend to come back to. The next morning the family coffee changed. Anna carried the tray into the east sitting room at 8:30, as she had every day, expecting the mother alone in her chair, expecting to set it down and leave, and answer only if spoken to. Hye-suk was there, jade bracelet catching the light, hands folded. But the second cup by the empty chair, the useless one, the one set for someone who didn't come down, was not by an empty chair. Min-jae was in it. He sat with the morning paper he wasn't reading, in the charcoal suit again, watch back on his wrist, and when Anna came in he looked up, and Hye-suk looked at her son looking up, and for one held second 3 people in a cold room understood exactly what was happening, and none of them said it. 2 cups, Hye-suk said. Finally, the right number. Anna poured. Her hand was steady. She set his cup down first, the way she'd been taught the guest is served before the host, and Hye-suk noticed that too, noticed that her son had become a guest, her son again, in his own house. Min-jae drank. The mother watched him drink coffee she had poured beside an empty chair for longer than she would ever admit, and she pressed her folded hands a little harder together, and her jade bracelet clicked once against the china saucer, and she said nothing, because there was nothing to say that wouldn't break it. "Thank you, Grace," Hye-suk said. "Grace," Min-jae repeated, like he was testing whether the name would hold weight. "That's a strange thing to name a person." "My mother named me," Anna said. "It was the only thing she could give me for free." Hye-suk's cup stopped halfway to her mouth. She set it down without drinking. Something moved behind her eyes. Quick, there and gone, and she reached up and touched the emerald and gold ring on her finger, as if checking it was still there. Neither Anna nor Min-jae saw it. What Hye-suk did not say, because she had promised herself she would say it to no one, was that she had heard that exact sentence once before, in another room, from a woman who did not know she was being remembered. The charity event came up over the second week of kitchen nights. Anna knew about it before she should have, the way the staff knew everything before they should, the foundation's autumn gala, the one Seo-yoon ran the paperwork for, the one the family had skipped for a year because grief does not buy a table. Seo-yoon had been fighting with her tote of contracts all week, dimple gone, the camel coat over the back of a chair while she argued on the phone about a director named Han Dae-sung, and a signature that should have been hers to give. "My sister needs someone to walk her in," Min-jae said, at the steel table, at 2 in the morning, apropos of a story Anna had just finished about a wedding where the groom fainted. The gala, Saturday. Then walk her in. "I don't go to those." "You went to the front stairs," Anna said. "You went to this table 3 nights running. Seems to me you go where you decide to go." He turned the cup in a slow circle on the steel. "You think it's that simple?" "I think," Anna said carefully, "that your sister has been carrying a bag of contracts too heavy for one person, and that a room full of people who flinch at your name would be very interested to see you stand next to her while she signs." He was quiet a long moment. Outside, the first bird tried the dark and gave up. "Come," he said. "I'm the help. You'd be working, serving. Mrs. O can put you on the floor." He said it too fast, and then heard how it sounded, and something almost like color came up under the pale skin. "You'd be there, that's all I meant." "I know what you meant." She stood, gathered the cups, ran them under the tap so the morning shift would find nothing. "Walk your sister in, Mr. Kang. She's the one who needs the arm." He did. Saturday, in the charcoal suit with the silver signet ring, Min-jae came down the front stairs at 7 in the evening. Not 2 in the morning, not the back way, the front, in full view of the staff who stopped mid-task to watch a ghost put on a coat. Seo-yoon was at the bottom in a plain dark dress with her tote still on her shoulder, and when she saw her brother coming down dressed to be seen, her mouth opened and no sound came out, and then she laughed, wet, and pressed the back of her hand to her nose, exactly the way he did. "You're coming," Seo-yoon said. I'm walking you in, Min-jae said. You do the signing. I stand there and look expensive. You are expensive. He took the tote off her shoulder and carried it himself. Anna watched from the service hall in the black and white uniform, tray of empty champagne flutes balanced on her forearm, and she watched Min-jae hand his sister into the car and get in after her, and she felt something in her chest she had no schedule for and no wage against. She turned back to the kitchen before Mrs. O could catch the look and warn her to hide it better than the book. At the gala, she worked the floor. She carried trays through a room of people who did not see her, which was the job, which was fine. But twice, across the crowded parquet, over the heads of donors and directors and men with more money than God, Min-jae found her without seeming to look, and the corner of his mouth moved, and she looked at the floor, and both of them knew. Between courses, she stood against the wall with her tray and let the room wash over her. Donors traded names. A senator's wife complained about her florist. Somewhere, a string quartet sawed politely at a piece nobody was listening to. Anna had served 100 rooms exactly like this one, and she had learned to read them the way other people read weather: who was drunk, who was frightened, who was pretending to belong. She read this one now and found, standing near the bar, a heavy-set man in a glossy gray suit who was reading it too. He was not drinking, he was watching the Kang table the way she was watching the room, and that made 2 people at the gala who were working, and only one of them was being paid for it. Seo-yoon signed her contracts with her brother standing at her shoulder, and the man named Han Dae-sung, heavy-set, rimless glasses, a thin, cold, courteous smile, and a mole near the left corner of his mouth, watched the 2 Kang siblings from across the room with an expression that never quite finished being a smile. He watched Min-jae, then he followed Min-jae's eyes across the room, once, to a black woman in a maid's uniform carrying a tray of empty glasses, and Han Dae-sung's not-quite smile settled into something patient, and he filed it away, and he lifted a fresh flute off a passing tray and drank to a plan that had just, that instant, found its lever. Nobody saw him do it. Nobody at that gala was looking at the help, except 2 people, and only one of them meant her harm. Late, near midnight, the family came home. Anna was already back at the estate, out of the uniform, waiting for the last bus, when the car pulled through the gate. Min-jae got out. He saw her at the service door with her canvas bag on her shoulder and her own clothes on, and he crossed the gravel to her instead of going in, still in the evening suit, tie loosened, and for a second, neither of them had a script. She signed everything, he said. Seo-yoon. She didn't stop smiling. Good. I hadn't been in that room in a year. He looked back at the lit house, then at her. I forgot what my sister looked like when she wins. Now you'll remember. He nodded slowly. He looked like a man standing at the edge of saying a thing that would cost him. Anna watched him decide not to say it, watched him fold it back down, and she was grateful, because she had a bus to catch and a bill folded square in her pocket, and no room in her life for whatever that sentence was going to be. Good night, Mr. Kang. Min-jae, he said. In the kitchen, it's Min-jae. You've never once used my name. In the kitchen, she agreed, and did not use it, and walked out through the gate to the road. He stood on the gravel and watched the bus lights pull away, and behind him, in an upstairs window, his mother stood with her hand at her throat, watching her son watch a woman leave, and Hae-suk thought of a signature and a director and a favor she had asked 3 months ago, and for the first time, she felt the first cold edge of fear that she had set something in motion she could no longer stop. The pharmacy bill came open on a Tuesday, and it came open by accident. Anna was refilling the sugar tin in the service pantry when the folded square slid from her sweater pocket and dropped face up on the counter. She had carried it 11 days without breaking the seal. Now the seal was broken, torn by the fall, and the number sat there in printed black where she could not unsee it. $218. A second line under it. Past due. A third line she read twice. Final notice before referral. She sat down on the stool by the shelf. Ruth's heart medication and her mother's evaluation were two separate walls, and she had been paying attention to only one of them. She did the math she already knew. 340 in cash, 90 and change in the account. 218 owed today, 500 owed for the cardiologist, and a wage that would not close either gap before the deadlines closed first. She folded the bill again along its old creases, but the creases were soft now and would not hold. "That's a face I know," Boram said from the doorway. Anna slid the paper under her palm. "It's nothing." 10 years of that face, you said. Boram set down a colander of scallions. "Nobody makes nothing look like that." Anna stood and reached for the sugar tin again, and her hands were steady because she had trained them to be steady in front of people. "The 3 o'clock tray," she said. "Garden room?" Boram let it go, the way people in that house had learned to let things go. He was in the kitchen that night at 2, and he knew before she said a word. Anna had learned the pattern of his silences, and this one had a shape. He turned his everyday cup in a slow quarter circle on the counter and waited, and when she brought the pot he didn't lift the cup for her to pour. He put his hand flat over it. "You didn't tell me your mother is sick," Min-jae said. Anna set the pot down. "I don't tell you things about me. That's the arrangement." "You never made that arrangement out loud." "Neither did you." He took his hand off the cup. "Boram didn't say it. Nobody said it. I read it off you for 11 days and I finally put the pieces in the right order." He looked at her then, and the light had come back into the deep-set eyes over the last weeks, and she wished, briefly, that it hadn't, because a man who was awake could see. "A heart evaluation, 500, cash, before they schedule, and you count coins on the bus." She hadn't told him about the bus. She hadn't told him about the coins. "How long?" she said. "Does it matter?" "It matters to me whether I've been that easy to read." "You've been that easy to watch," he said. "It's not the same thing." She poured the coffee he hadn't asked for, because her hands needed the job. "It's handled." "It isn't." The word landed the way it had landed the first day on the stairs, flat, certain, the same 2 syllables he'd used about her burned hand. She noticed he had chosen the same word, and she did not think he had noticed. "I'll pay for it," he said. The pot went back on the trivet with more care than it needed. "No," Anna said. "You didn't hear the amount." "There is no amount." She wiped a ring of coffee off the counter that wasn't there. "You have all of it. That's exactly why the answer is no." He turned on the stool to face her fully. He had never done that before. In 3 weeks of 2 a.m. cups, he had always sat angled toward the dark window, giving her the side of his face, the tattoo, the profile, and now he gave her the front of himself and it changed the size of the room. "Explain it to me," he said. "Because from where I sit, a woman is going to let her mother wait for a number she can't reach. And the number is nothing to me, and pride is a strange thing to bury a mother under." Anna set the cloth down. "You want to know what happens if I take your money." She kept her voice at the level she used for delivering trays, even and low. "Tomorrow I still bring the coffee, but now I'm bringing it to the man who paid for my mother's heart. Every night I come down here. I'm the woman who owes you. You'll never say it. You're not the kind who says it. But it'll be in the room, sitting on the 3rd stool, every night, forever. You think I'd hold it over you? I think you wouldn't have to." She looked at him. "That's worse. A debt you never mention is the loudest thing in a house. I've cleaned houses with debts in them. You can smell it in the curtains." He was quiet. "The reason you come down here," she said, "is that I'm the one person in this house who wants nothing off you. Boram wants you to eat. Your mother wants you to live. Mrs. O wants the order kept. Your sister wants you at her events, and I want you to drink your coffee and leave me my 2 a.m. That's it. That's the whole thing. She picked up the pot. You pay for my mother, and I become one more person you gave something to, and you'll go back to being alone in a house full of people you've paid for. So you'd rather she wait? I'd rather owe you nothing. Her throat had gone tight, and she pushed the words through it clean. Attention doesn't come with a price tag. The minute it does, it isn't attention anymore. It's a receipt. He didn't drink the coffee that night, and he didn't offer the money again, and for 2 days the kitchen stayed empty at 2. Anna told herself the empty kitchen was fine. She told Delilah, on the bus, in a text, that everything was fine, and Delilah wrote back a single word. Fine, huh? With the period Delilah used when she didn't believe you. Anna put the phone away. Ruth called on the second night, no message, her way of saying she was upright. Anna sat with the missed call on the dark screen and did not call back, because if she heard her mother's voice, she was afraid the arithmetic would show in it. On the third day, Mrs. O handed her an envelope in the linen room. Not money, a card, cream stock, an embossed name, a hospital Anna knew by reputation and had never been able to afford the parking lot of. You have an appointment, Mrs. O said. Your mother. Thursday, 9 a.m., cardiology, full evaluation. Her thin mouth did not move toward warmth. It is a research intake, no fee. They see a limited number of complex cases each quarter to keep the department's teaching status. Your mother qualified. Anna held the card. Qualified. A physician reviewed her clinic file and agreed she was an appropriate case. Mrs. O's reading glasses hung on their chain, and she did not put them on. There is no cost. There is no favor attached. You will not thank anyone, because there is no one to thank. A department admitted a patient. That is all that happened. Anna understood exactly what had happened. He had not paid. He had listened. She had told him the shape of the wall, 500, cash, before they schedule, and he had not thrown money over the wall. He had found a door in it and walked her mother through the door and left no name on the frame, no debt, no receipt, nothing on the third stool. Mrs. O, Anna said. There is nothing to say, Mrs. O said, and you will say nothing to him about it, because he arranged it precisely so there would be nothing to say. If you thank him, you undo it. Do you understand? Anna understood that too. She put the card in the inside pocket of her bag, the one with the zipper. He was in the kitchen that night. He had his cup, and the pot was already out, and he'd poured it himself, badly, grounds in the bottom. A man who had never poured his own coffee learning the wrong way. She sat down without being asked, which she had never done, and it evened something between them. Thursday, she said, 9 a.m. I don't know what you mean. No, she said, you wouldn't. He drank the bad coffee. Is it a good hospital? It's the best one in the city. Then it sounds like your mother got lucky. She did. Anna turned her own cup, matching him quarter by quarter. Some department needed a complex case to keep its teaching status. Terrible timing for them, lucky for us. The corner of his mouth moved. He looked at the window instead of at her, giving her back the side of his face, the tattoo, the profile, and she was glad of it, because whatever was on her own face right then was not for handing across a counter. You were right, he said to the window, about the receipt. I usually am. I'll remember that. He set the cup down. It's a bad habit of mine. Solving things by opening my wallet. It's faster. He turned the empty cup upside down and looked at the grounds. Nobody ever told me no and stayed. They say no and they mean. Offer more. You said no and you meant no. I mean most of the things I say. I'm learning that. The reports came to the house on Friday, And that was the accident that turned everything. They came in a courier folder addressed to Seo Yun, the Foundation's audited accounts for the autumn gala, contracts and disbursements bound in a clip, the kind of paperwork a sister carried in a tote and a brother had never once opened. Seo Yun had left the folder on the sitting room table when she went to argue on the phone about a signature, and the phone argument was with a director named Han Dae-sung, and Anna heard the name through the door because Seo Yun said it 4 times, each time harder. Min Jae came down for the morning coffee and the folder was there, and he had not read a Foundation document in over a year because reading them had been his father's job and then no one's job, and today, awake, he picked it up. Anna served the coffee, 2 cups. She poured his first, the guest before the host, and Hae-suk watched her son do a thing he had stopped doing, read. He read the way he did everything, slowly, 1 item at a time, and then he stopped being slow. Seo Yun, he said, when his sister came back off the phone. This vendor, the event staging, how many bids did you take? 3. Dae-sung ran the procurement. She dropped into the chair. He always runs procurement. He's run it since father. 3 bids. Min Jae laid 2 pages side by side. These 2 are the same document. Same font, same margins, same typo in the address line. Someone made 2 of the 3 bids on the same machine and changed the letterhead. Seo Yun leaned over. That's not. And this one. He slid a 3rd page out. The winning bid is the highest of the 3. You don't award the highest bid, Seo Yun. Not on a charity's money, unless the point was never to save the charity money. The room had gone still in the particular way the house went still. Hae-suk set down her cup and did not pick it up. He spread the whole clip out on the table, and Anna, standing at the wall with the empty pot, watched a man come the rest of the way awake. These disbursements. His finger moved down a column. The gala raised for the children's cardiac program. That was the whole banner. That was your speech. He tapped a figure. 40% of what was raised went to the staging vendor, the vendor that submitted a fixed bid, the vendor with the same typo. Dae-sung handles all of that, Seo Yun said, and her voice had lost its brightness. He said it was normal. He said, father always. Father didn't. Min Jae's jaw set. Father lost at chess on purpose to teach me a lesson, and he never lost a single one on a book he'd read. I've seen the machine you're describing. I've built the machine you're describing, in a different business, and I know exactly how it hums. He straightened the pages into a stack, edges square, the koi at his neck taut as he moved. A man skims a charity by fixing bids to a shell vendor he controls, and he tells the boss's daughter it's normal, because he's counting on the boss's son to be a ghost on the top floor, who never comes down to read. He looked up, and Anna felt the look reach the wall where she stood. He didn't count on someone getting me to come down. Anna set the pot on the sideboard because her hand was no longer certain of it. Where does the phone argument fit? Min Jae said to his sister. You've been fighting him about a signature for 2 weeks. Which signature? He wants me to sign next year's procurement over to his office. Standing authority. He says it's cleaner. He says it's how it worked before. Seo Yun's face had gone pale under the dimple. I kept not signing it. I don't know why. It felt wrong. Good. Min Jae almost smiled, and it wasn't warm. Don't sign it. Don't sign anything of his. And don't tell him you've stopped. Hae-suk spoke for the first time, and her voice was careful. Min Jae, Han Dae-sung sat at your father's funeral in the 2nd row. He has been in this family's business for 20 years. Then he's had 20 years to learn where the loose boards are. Min Jae gathered the folder, tucked it under his arm, the way his father's coat still hung untucked on the rack 6 rooms away, the way a man reclaims a job. I'll need the last 5 years of Foundation accounts, Seyun. Quietly. Through the bank, not through his office. He'll notice. Let him. Min Jae stood. A man who's been robbing a house always notices first when someone finally turns the lights on. That's how you know it's him. The honest ones ask why the lights are on. The thief already knows. He carried the folder up the front stairs, not the back, in daylight, past the staff, and every servant in the hall watched the son of the house move through it awake with a job under his arm. Anna cleared the coffee. Hae-suk had not touched hers. "Anna," Hae-suk said, quietly, when the two of them were alone, "my son has not opened a business paper in 14 months. No, ma'am. He read that one because it was on the table. And it was on the table because you brought the coffee, and he came down for the coffee." Hae-suk turned the jade bracelet on her wrist, once, all the way around. "I asked for a small thing, 3 months ago, a quiet thing. I thought I understood the size of it." She looked at the doorway her son had gone through. "I am no longer sure I did." Anna did not know what the small thing was. She heard only that there had been one. "Ma'am?" "Nothing." Hae-suk stood, and the careful mask came down over whatever had lifted. "Thank you for the coffee." And Anna, she paused at the door. When a powerful man decides to look directly at a thing, everyone standing near that thing gets seen too, whether they wish to be or not. Her eyes went to Anna and held. "Be careful where you're standing." She left. That night, the kitchen was different. Min Jae came down at 2 with papers instead of nothing in his hands, and he spread them on the counter beside the everyday cups, and for the first time he told her the story instead of the other way around. "He's clever," Min Jae said. "Dae-sung. He kept every theft small enough to look like a fee. 15 years, small fees. It adds to a number that would end him." He moved a page toward her. "And now he wants my sister's signature on next year, because next year he wants it bigger." And a man doesn't reach for standing authority unless he's planning to stop being careful. Anna looked at the columns she couldn't fully read. What happens when he finds out you're looking? He fights. Min Jae stacked the pages. "Men like that don't run. Running is a confession. He'll do the other thing, which is..." Min Jae was quiet a moment, and when he spoke it was almost gentle, which was worse than if it hadn't been. "He'll look for the loose board in my house, the way I looked for his." He set the stack square. "He'll find the thing I've started to care about, and he'll put his hand on it, and he'll squeeze, so that I'm too busy holding it to keep reading his books." Anna held very still. "And what is that?" she said. "The thing you've started to care about." He didn't answer that. He picked up the everyday cup and drank the last of it and set it down, and he looked at the window and not at her, giving her the profile, the tattoo, the line of a jaw that had been a photograph turned to a wall 3 weeks ago and was now a man planning a war. "Drink your coffee," she said, softly, giving him back his own line. "And go up." He almost smiled. He gathered his papers. At the foot of the back stairs, he stopped without turning. "Anna. If anyone in this house says a thing about you that isn't true," he said, "don't defend yourself to them. Come to me first." Then he went up, and the papers went with him, and Anna stood alone in the kitchen with 2 empty cups and the cream card in her bag for Thursday's 9 a.m., and she understood, the way you understand weather before it arrives, that the quiet was over, that a man with more money than God had turned his lights on in a dark house, and somewhere across the city, another man had just felt the draft and was already reaching for the loose board with her name on it. The word reached Anna before the accusation did, the way smoke reaches a room before the fire is named. It came in the small silences. Bo Ram stopped humming when Anna entered the kitchen. A younger maid she had shown the linen fold to on Tuesday now folded it 3 feet farther down the counter. The booth guard, who had nodded the same nod at the side gate for 4 weeks, looked at the clipboard instead of her face when she keyed the code. Anna kept moving. She counted the trays, she poured the coffee. She told herself, men imagine drafts in old houses, and this was an old house. By Thursday, the shape of it had a mouth. She was carrying folded towels past the second landing when two voices came down from the upper hall, low, the way people talk when they want to be overheard without being caught. They say she went up at night. To his floor? Where else does a girl go at 2 in the morning? A pause. She caught his eye with a coffee tray. Now she's catching the rest of him. Anna stopped on the stair with the towels warm against her chest. She did not turn around to find the faces. She had learned young that turning around was what they wanted, that the flinch was the whole point of the sentence. She climbed to the landing, set the towels in the linen press, squared the stack, and went back down. The kitchen nights were true and clean, and no hand had ever crossed the 2 feet of counter between them. She knew that, knowing it did nothing against a sentence built to sound like knowing. Ruth's evaluation had been that morning. 9 o'clock. The best hospital in the city, a doctor with warm hands who called it a research intake, and asked her mother 40 questions and listened to all 40 answers. Anna had taken the early bus to sit in the waiting room and hold her mother's coat. Ruth had come out with a folder and a follow-up date and the first color in her face in a month. On the ride home, she'd squeezed Anna's wrist once and said, "Whatever you did, undo the part that's costing you." Anna had said there was no cost. Her mother had looked at her the way mothers look at the lies they raised. Now Anna understood. The cost had been waiting at the gate the whole time. At noon, Mrs. O found her in the service pantry. The head housekeeper's reading glasses hung on their chain, and her thin lips were a straighter line than usual. She did not sit. "Mrs. Kang's ring," she said. "The emerald and gold. It was on her dressing table this morning. It is not there now." Anna set down the spoons she was drying. "I've never been on that floor. I know the rules I gave you." Mrs. O's gaze went past her, to nothing, then back. "That is not the same as knowing where the ring is." She turned the small notebook at her waist without opening it. "There will be a check of the lockers, all of them, at 2. Director's orders." She said the word directors the way you'd say a stain. "I did not choose 2 o'clock. Remember that I did not choose it." She left before Anna could ask which director. Anna did not need to ask. She had 4 weeks in that house, and 11 days of Min-jae reading her like weather, and 1 folder full of 2 identical bids made on 1 machine, and she could do arithmetic that had nothing to do with money. A man who had run procurement for 15 years, who had felt the lights come on in a dark house, who had watched the boss's dead eyes find a maid across a gala floor. He would not run. Min-jae had said so himself, at the counter, in the dark. He would look for the loose board. He would find the thing the boss had started to care about, and he would step on it in front of everyone, so the boss would do something loud and stupid and hand him the story back. The board had her name on it. She had 90 minutes. She spent the first 40 of them not panicking, which was work. Bo Ram came in for the lunch clear down and read Anna's face and stopped. "What? Where's the locker corridor camera?" Anna said. "The one by the staff room. Corner, above the time clock." Bo Ram set down the pot. "Anna, does it run all night?" "It runs always. 14 years I've clocked under it." The cook's jaw worked. "You didn't take anything." "No." Anna pulled the cream appointment card from her bag, then put it back. Wrong reflex, wrong paper. She made herself breathe from the bottom of her lungs, the ballroom breath, the one she used when the generator died and 52 guests went dark, and the only thing between service and disaster was a woman who refused to drop the tray. "Bo Ram, what time do you clock in?" 5:30. Same as 30 years of women before me. "And the locker room's empty from when to when?" "Midnight to 5. Bo Ram's eyes changed, catching up. Anybody wanting to be alone with the lockers has 5 hours and a key. And there's exactly one man in this city who thinks the rules are a suggestion, he wrote. At 1:50, the staff filed into the corridor outside the locker room. Word travels. The whole downstairs had found a reason to be there. Younger maids, the 2 garden men, the driver, the seamstress. Mrs. O stood by the row of gray metal doors with a master key and a face like a shut window, and at the head of the corridor, hands folded over his belt, rimless glasses catching the strip light, stood Han Dae-sung. He had not been in that corridor once in 4 weeks. He was in it now. "Ah," he said when Anna came in. The thin, courteous smile arrived on schedule. The new girl, the one everyone's talking about. He let the sentence sit so the room could hear its own gossip repeated in a director's voice, laundered into fact. "Shall we? Nothing personal. Housekeeping asked for a check. We all opened together. Fairness." Nobody had asked housekeeping for anything. Mrs. O's knuckles were white on the key. They opened together, down the row, one door at a time, the maids showing their little kingdoms, a hairbrush, a photo, a paperback, a spare pair of flats. Ordinary, human, Dae-sung walked the row slowly, glancing, patient, a man strolling toward a conclusion he had already written and mailed to himself. Anna's was second from the end. She opened it herself before Mrs. O could. She wanted her own hand on the door. Inside, her anatomy textbook, spine cracked from the bus, a folded cardigan, the pharmacy envelope, $218, past due, and on top of the folded cardigan, catching the strip light and throwing it green across the metal, a ring she had never touched, emerald and gold. Hye Sooks. The corridor made a sound, one soft collective intake, the sound a room makes when the story it was told turns out to be true. Dae-sung did not hurry over. He let the distance do its work. "Well," he said, and the smile widened one careful degree. "There it is." Anna looked at the ring. She looked at the textbook under it, the honest cracked spine, the years of night buses. She thought of her mother's hand on her wrist that morning. Undo the part that's costing you. She did not reach for the ring. She did not touch it. She put her hands behind her back, the way you do at an exhibit, and she turned to face the corridor, and when she spoke, her voice was level and it carried. "I've never been on the second floor," she said. "I've never held that ring. So one of 2 things is true. Either I'm the stupidest thief in this city, I stole the most recognizable stone in the house and left it sitting on top of my own name, or somebody put it there. They always have a story," Dae-sung said to the room, gently. "Then let's not use my story." Anna kept her eyes on him now. "Let's use the camera." The corridor went quiet in a different key. "There's a camera over the time clock," she said. "It runs all night. Bo Rams clocked under it for 14 years. That ring left Mrs. Kang's table sometime after midnight and got into a locked room the staff can't enter till 5. Pull the footage, midnight to 5. If it shows me walking in there, you won't need a check. You'll have a confession." She let that hang, so pull it, right now, before this corridor goes back to work. Dae-sung's smile held, but something behind the glasses recalculated. "The footage is a security matter. It goes to my office for review. In time. These things are done properly." "Your office," Anna said. "Procurement handles estate security contracts." "Yes." "So the camera reports to the man who found the ring." She let the room hear it. She was not loud. Loud was what he'd paid for. Somewhere. In someone. "You'd like to review the tape privately, in the office that already lost 40% of a charity gala to a vendor that doesn't exist, and then tell us all what the tape said." The word vendor moved through the corridor like a dropped glass. Most of them didn't understand it. 2 of them did, and their faces changed, and that was enough. "Careful," Dae-sung said. and the courtesy thinned to show the wire under it. I am being careful. Anna took the cream card from her bag, not for the appointment, for the timestamp on the back, the intake receipt, printed 9:02 that morning. She held it up. I was at a hospital across the city until 11:40 today. 50 people saw me. There's a stamped record, so I'll ask you something a thief wouldn't dare ask. She stepped forward, one step, and it cost him more than her step should have. When was the ring reported missing? Dae-sung didn't answer. Mrs. O, Anna said, without turning. When did you find it gone from the table? This morning, Mrs. O said. Her voice was dry and exact. 10 o'clock, when I did the room. 10, Anna nodded slowly. And the locker room locks at midnight and opens at 5. So the ring got in here overnight, before it was ever missing at 10. It was already in my locker before anyone said it was gone. She turned back to the corridor. The tape has a 5-hour window. Pull it. Not to his office. Here, on the wall. Everyone watches at once, or nobody clears their name, including the people who'll be searched next. That last one landed. The maids nearest the far lockers went still with the particular stillness of people realizing the machine that ate the new girl doesn't stop being hungry after her. This is hysteria, Dae-sung said, dressed as. Then the tape ends it in 4 minutes. Anna hadn't raised her voice once. You keep offering me privacy. I don't want privacy. I want the wall. A man with nothing on the tape gives you the wall. What are you giving me? Footsteps on the front stairs. The good stairs. Coming down at speed. The corridor turned. Min-jae came through the staff door still in the charcoal 3-piece, tie undone at the throat, like he'd stood up mid-thought and not finished dressing his composure. His eyes found the open locker, the green stone, the ring of faces. Anna, standing in front of all of it with her hands behind her back. Something moved across his face that the whole corridor felt. The loud thing, the stupid thing, the thing Dae-sung had spent a ring to buy. His jaw set. His hand, at his side, closed. Anna saw it too. She saw exactly what she'd been warned was coming. Arriving on cue. Don't, she said. Just to him. Quiet. It cut through the corridor and stopped him with one foot still forward. Don't do the thing he came here to make you do, she said. He didn't plant a ring for the ring. He planted it for your face. For this. For you crossing this floor and making it about how much you'll break for a maid. That's the story he sells upstairs. Don't sign it. Min-jae stood very still. The koi at his neck rose and fell with a breath he was working to keep even. His hand, slowly, opened. You told me once, Anna said, still only to him, if someone said an untrue thing about me, to come to you first. A pause. I'm doing it in front of everybody instead, because in front of everybody is the only place it unsticks. Something in Min-jae's shoulders came down half an inch. He looked at Dae-sung, the way his father must have looked across a chessboard, 3 moves from winning, choosing not to hurry the piece. Pull the tape, Min-jae said. His voice was low and it did not shake. The wall. Now, my house, my camera, not his office. The chain of custody, Dae-sung began. Is mine, Min-jae said. The estate contracts are mine. I read them Friday. He let that sit exactly as long as Anna had let her sentences sit. He had learned the rhythm from her, across 100 quiet nights, and he used it on the man who taught him nothing. Bo Ram, the security rooms behind the pantry. Bring the drive. Dae-sung's smile was gone now. What was under it was older and colder and had run this house's money for 2 decades, and it looked at Anna, not at Min-jae, at Anna, the loose board that had refused to give, with the first honest thing he'd shown all day, which was hatred. You'll regret the wall, he said, so softly only she caught it. Maybe, Anna said, just as soft, but I'll regret it standing up. Ball Ram came back with the drive and the little monitor from the security desk, and they set it on the folding table by the time clock, and the corridor crowded close, and Mrs. O cued the footage to midnight with hands that had stopped being white. And here Anna made her last move, the small one, the one she'd been holding. "Before you play it," she said, "watch the clock in the corner of the picture. The timestamp." She looked at Daesung. "A tape that's been to the wrong office once already has a habit of skipping. If the numbers jump, if a stretch of the night is just gone, that's not me. That's the edit. Watch the corner, not the door." The screen woke. Gray corridor, empty, the time clock's own display glowing in frame, and beside it the camera's stamp counting the seconds of a dead hour. Nothing. Nothing. The lockers slept. Then the timestamp in the corner jumped. 12:51 to 1:19. 28 minutes, gone between one frame and the next, the gray corridor flickering from one empty to a different empty, the digits leaping a gap no clock makes on its own. The whole corridor saw it. You didn't need to read a contract to read a clock skipping half an hour in a locked room on the one night the boss's mother lost her ring. Anna didn't say anything. She'd learned that too. You point at the gap and you let the room fall into it by itself. Min-jae turned his head, slowly, toward Han Dae-sung. And Dae-sung, who had run procurement since the father, who had sat second row at the funeral, who had walked a corridor toward a conclusion he'd already mailed himself, took one step back toward the door before he caught the tell and made himself stop. But everyone had seen the step. "Play it again," Anna said quietly. "The corner, so nobody has to take my word." Mrs. O's finger was already moving to the key. Mrs. O pressed the key. The gray corridor filled the wall again, still and empty, the timestamp ticking in the corner where Anna had told them to watch. 12:49, 50, 51, then the jump. 19, a clean 28 minutes gone, in the space of a single blink. Somebody near the back said the number out loud, 28. It traveled down the corridor like a dropped plate. Han Dae-sung reached for the folding table as if to steady it. His hand found the edge and rested there. "Compression," he said. "The drive skips. Cheap hardware. It proves nothing." "It skips at midnight and 5, Anna said. "Not once at 10 to 1. On the one night, a ring walked into a locked room." She kept her hands behind her back. "You'd need the office that holds the security contract to cut a hole that neat. You told everyone that office is yours." The word yours turned in the air. Two of the garden men looked at Daesung and then looked away, and that looking away was the first brick coming out of his wall. Min-jae had not raised his voice once. He stood by the time clock in his charcoal three-piece, tie still undone from the stairs, and he watched the older man the way a man watches a door he already knows is locked. "Play the vendor file," he said to Mrs. O, the one Seo-yoon pulled through the bank. Not his office, the bank. Mrs. O's fingers moved. A spreadsheet threw itself onto the wall, columns of figures no maid in that corridor could read, and it didn't matter that they couldn't. What mattered was Daesung's face when the numbers appeared, the courteous smile finally sliding off, the mole at the corner of his mouth pulling down, the glasses coming off so he had something to do with his hands. 3 bids, Min-jae said. 2 typed on the same machine. The winner priced highest. 15 years. He let it sit. "My father trusted you with the procurement because you sat in the second row and cried at the right moments. You've been billing his charity for a vendor that has no door." "Your father," Daesung began. "Don't." "No." One word. It closed the sentence like a hand over a mouth. Anna watched the corridor change owners. An hour ago, every face in it had been turned from her. Now every face was turned toward the man at the table, and the turning had cost her nothing but the nerve to make them look at a clock. She did not enjoy it. She had been the one in front of the open locker. She knew what the front of the room felt like from the wrong side, and she gave Dae-sung none of the pleasure of watching her gloat. Mrs. O set down the key and lifted her chin. 30 years of holding the master key had taught her exactly when a house changes hands. "The check is closed," she said, to the whole corridor, in the flat voice she used for schedules. Nothing was taken from this woman's locker, because she put nothing in it. I want that said the way the other thing was said. Out loud, in front of the same people. She turned. "Miss Grace's name is clear. Anyone who carries the other story past this door answers to me." It was not Min Jae who cleared her. Anna noticed that and kept it. The housekeeper who had called her a trial on the first morning was the one who said the words, and she said them because they were true, not because a rich man was standing there. That was worth more than the ring. 2 directors near the door were already gone. Dae-sung stood alone at the table, with his glasses in his hand. He looked at Min Jae once, measuring the distance to something, and found nothing there to bargain with. "You'll want a lawyer in the room before you say the next part," Min Jae told him, quiet. "Not for me. For the auditors the bank called this morning." He tipped his head toward the door. "Walk out on your feet. It's the last thing I'll give you for my father's sake." The heavy-set man walked out on his feet. The corridor let him pass, and closed behind him like water. Then it was just the sound of the time clock, and 40 people not knowing where to put their eyes. Bo-ram started it. She began to hum, the low kitchen hum that had gone missing for 3 days, and the young maid who had folded her linen at a distance now folded it close, and the corridor breathed and began, in ones and twos, to leave. Anna reached into her open locker at last. She did not touch the ring. She lifted out her cracked anatomy textbook, her folded cardigan, and the $218 pharmacy envelope, still past due, still real, and she held them against her chest, the way she'd held her mother's coat, in the hospital waiting room that morning. The ring she left on the shelf for Mrs. O to carry back to the woman it belonged to. "You were early to none of it," Min Jae said, coming to stand near her, "and ahead of all of it." "I watch rooms for a living," Anna said. "It's the only thing 10 years bought me." He almost answered. Then, his mother's voice came down the corridor. Kang Hae-suk walked the length of the locker room slowly, jade bracelet catching the overhead light, and the staff parted for her without being told. She stopped in front of Anna. She looked at the ring on the shelf and did not reach for it. She looked at Anna's face the way she had looked at it on the first morning, longer than a stranger looks, and this time she let the whole house see her do it. "Take the ring back later," she said to Mrs. O, without turning. "I need to say a thing first, and I've waited 3 months too long to say it." The corridor went still, in a new way. "Not here," Anna said quietly. She had spent a day being talked about in front of a crowd. She would not be explained in front of one. Hae-suk heard it, and something in her softened. "No," she agreed. "Not here, the garden room, both of you." She looked at her son. "You'll want to sit down for it too." The garden room held the afternoon light the way it always did, and the useless second cup was gone from beside the empty chair. Anna saw that first, saw that someone had finally cleared it, and understood a small thing had changed in the house without anyone announcing it. Hae-suk sat. She turned her emerald and gold ring on her finger, the twin of the one on the locker shelf, and she began at the part she had never said aloud. "3 months ago I fainted," she said. "At a hospital foundation luncheon, the cardiac wing, the same wing that saw your mother this morning." Her mouth moved toward a smile and didn't finish. "I went down between 2 tables. My driver was parking. My son was upstairs in a house he wouldn't leave, and a woman in a catering apron got there before the doctors, put me on my side, and held my head off the floor." Anna's hands went still in her lap. "The photographers came, the way they come," Hae-suk said. Kang matriarch collapses. It prints itself. This woman put her body between me and their cameras. She took the phone out of a man's hand and gave it back only when he stopped filming. When my people finally reached me, they offered her money, because that is the only language my people speak. She looked at Anna. She said, "I didn't do it for a receipt." The room did not move. "You," Haesuk said. "It was you. You never asked my name. You went back to your trays. I asked the caterer for yours, and I kept it 3 days before I understood why." She turned to her son. "Your father was dead a year. You had stopped coming down, and I had met a woman who stepped between a stranger and the thing that would hurt her, and wanted nothing for it." Her voice thinned. "So I did what a frightened mother with too much power does. I asked Mrs. O to find a reason to hire her. I told no one. I told myself I was only opening a door." Min-jae had gone very quiet. Anna could see the exact moment it landed on him, that the coffee tray on the front stairs, the smile that came back, the kitchen knights, the chessboard, all of it had a hand behind it he hadn't known was there. His jaw set the way it had set at the locker, but there was no one in the room to aim it at except his own mother. "You arranged her," he said. "I arranged the door," Haesuk said. "I did not arrange one word that happened after it. I couldn't have. I didn't teach her the blackout story, or how to catch a tray, or how to make you laugh at 2 in the morning. I only made sure she was in the house on the day you decided to come down." Her hands folded. "Everything since then, the 2 of you did with no help from me. And there were nights I was afraid of what I'd started, because a door you open for a good reason can still let a Hyundai sung through it." Anna felt the sting of it, that the job she'd fought to keep, worn out shoes for, done impossible arithmetic over, had been placed in her path like a chair pulled out. For one breath, the whole month tilted. She had thought she'd earned the room. She'd been let into it. Then she looked at the pharmacy envelope in her lap, at her own hands, and she set the tilt straight herself. "You put me in the house," she said to Haesuk. Not a question. The way she'd learned to say things. "You didn't put the words in my mouth. You didn't hold the tray. You didn't sit on the 3rd stool." She looked at Min-jae. "And you didn't come down because your mother hired a maid. You came down because you heard a woman say something true, and it was the first true thing you'd heard in a year." She stood. "I'm not a favor that worked out. I'm the one who chose to stay after I found out I was hungry and the house was cold. Both of those are still true." Min-jae stood too. "You knew none of this." "Neither did you," Anna said. "So we're even. You were handed me and I was handed a paycheck, and everything that mattered we built at 2 in the morning with everyone else asleep." She almost smiled. "Your mother opened a door. We're the ones who kept walking through it." Haesuk looked at the 2 of them standing in her garden room and pressed the back of her hand to her mouth, and for once said nothing at all, because the thing she'd been afraid of for 3 months had just told her it was going to be all right. Min-jae found her the next evening on the rooftop terrace, where the house kept its one garden that got the last of the sun. He had the dusty chessboard under his arm. He set it on the low table between 2 chairs, the pieces still frozen where his father had left them, white 3 moves from beating black, and he made the move his father never got to make, slid the white bishop the length of the board, and took the black knight clean. Then he tipped the black king over himself. "He wins," Min-jae said. "Finally, I've been leaving it standing so it couldn't end. That was the whole trick of grief. Don't let the game finish." "And now," Anna said, "now it's finished." He looked at the fallen king without flinching. He was right. A man who can't lose a game can't win one. He picked up a water glass from the table, turned it in his hand. "Do you have a boyfriend?" The question came out plain, with none of the power he carried into every other room. Anna held it a second longer than kindness required, because she had earned the second. "Not yet," she said. The glass in his hand cracked, a short, bright sound, the stem giving under a grip he hadn't known he was closing, and a thin line of water ran across his fingers. He looked down at it and laughed, once, from the chest, the laugh the house had learned to recognize. He set the broken glass down with great care. "You did that," he said. "You did that," Anna said. "I just answered the question." He wrapped his hand in a napkin without looking at it. "Come to dinner," he said. "A restaurant. Up high. The kind with a view someone paid too much for. Not as the maid, as the woman who caught the tray." Then, because he had learned something in a month of kitchen nights, he added, "And you can say no." "I can say yes," Anna said. "On terms." "Name them." "No money that opens the door before we get there. No name at the desk that makes them bow. No men in dark suits at the next table watching my hands." She counted them on her fingers the way she counted cash on the bus. "You come as a man, or you don't come." "That's the whole price." He was quiet. For a man who had spent his life buying his way past every velvet rope, she was asking him to arrive at one with nothing in his hands. "That's the hardest thing you could ask me," he said. "I know," she said. "That's why I'm asking it." He wore the deep navy suit, the open collar shirt, no watch that cost more than a car, no phone on the table, no one at his shoulder. He had booked the rooftop table under a name that meant nothing, and when the man at the desk didn't know him, Anna watched something come loose in Min-jae's face, a small terror, and under it, relief. She came in the emerald green dress, gold at her ears, her hair unchanged, her mother's cross tucked warm against her chest, and every eye that turned for her and not for the name he didn't give. Over the second course, he told her the truth he'd been circling since the gravel drive. "I've spent my life confusing two things," he said. "Access and reason. I could get to anyone, so I told myself everyone wanted something from me. You were the first person I couldn't buy my way toward. I mistook that for you not wanting me." He turned his cracked then healed hand palm up on the table. "You just wanted me to come with empty hands. Nobody ever asked me that before. It cost more than everything I've ever spent." Anna told him her own truth then, the one she'd carried up on the bus every night. Her mother's evaluation had come back with a name for the thing in Ruth's chest. Treatable, with a plan and a follow-up and time, real time. And the $218 she'd owed the pharmacy she had paid that morning herself, from her own wage, folded flat and handed over the counter, because there was one bill in her life she was going to close with her own two hands. She'd left the medical textbook on the kitchen table at home, where her mother could see it, open, the way ambition ought to sit, and Delilah had made her eat a full plate 3 nights running and stood over her until she did. "You paid the small bill yourself," Min-jae said, "when I'd have covered it without blinking." "That's exactly why," Anna said. "Some doors I open." When the plates were cleared, he leaned across the table, slow, the way a man leans who has decided, and Anna let him come halfway before she raised her hand and pressed it flat to his chest. Not pushing, just there, a hand over a heartbeat, holding the most powerful man in the city 1 honest inch away. "Not yet," she said, the same 2 words, and this time neither of them broke. He sat back. He looked at her hand still resting where she'd put it, at the emerald dress and the unbowed desk and the empty seats where his men should have been, and he understood the last thing she was teaching him, that a man who could buy anything had to prove he could love a thing without holding it, without owning it, without a receipt, that the wanting was the gift, and the waiting was the proof. "Not yet," he agreed, and he smiled. The whole smile, the one from the photograph, turned toward the wall, the one his mother had watched come back over a dropped coffee tray, because for the first time in his life, he had found the one thing his money couldn't reach, and she had just told him it might, someday, reach back. Below them the city glittered, bought and paid for by men like his father. On the rooftop, a woman kept her hand on a rich man's chest and her feet on her own ground, and neither of them was in any hurry at all. Some things you don't catch. You wait for them to be handed to you, willingly, with empty hands. If you want to watch all the stories without any ads and also get access to bonus scenes, extended epilogues, and exclusive spicy chapters, head over to our Patreon. Scan the QR code on the screen. The link is in the description or in the pinned comment. See you there. If this story moved you, stop for a moment and reflect. Have you ever carried someone else's silver tray while no one saw the weight you carried inside? Have you ever refused help because your name was worth more than any debt someone tried to pay for it? And when the truth about your own worth finally came out, did you demand to be seen or did you stay quiet? Tell us your experiences and feelings in the comments. We read them all. And if you believe in stories about dignity, truth, and love, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a part of our community and help the channel.